stories out the way, we have a really great speaker today. He is a financial amazement to me. He can see numbers in his head and he can plan out things for you to help you get to a better financial position for your family and creating opportunities and financial opportunities that you may not have thought existed. And this is not something he bought into or bought into somebody else's plan. This is something he came up with. It's 100% pure Don Daniel. And I am excited to work with him in promoting this message because it's great. Who knows Dave Ramsey? Anybody heard of Dave Ramsey? Dave Ramsey knows about Don Daniel. That says a lot. So, without further ado, I want to bring up to you my friend, Mr. Don Daniel, founder of the P.I.L.L
Well, listen, I've had an opportunity to work with him and continue to work with Nikki. I had an opportunity to work with Steve, and we still have a working relationship. So if you need some business coaching, Steve is the person. If you need somebody to help you promote your business, Nikki is the one. All right? So, as she said, I'm the founder of the P.I.L.L method. And what we do is that we help people to understand how loans actually work and amortization. And so when you do that, we just focus on the interest cost of the loan. And then that way you can eliminate up to 75% of the interest cost. You don't have to refinance. Your payments stay the same. And you don't have to sacrifice lifestyle. Our clients typically pay off all of their loans, mortgages, student loans, credit cards, and their cars in an average of 7 to 9 years because of the interest they don't pay. You don't need more money to get out of debt. You just need to pay less interest. Does that make sense? So let's figure out how to do that. But let me take you back first to the time when I was, I don't know, 4th or 5th grade. And I'm sitting in the classroom. And everybody else is outside playing. Because Don has to finish his work. You see, every year there are conferences. And my mother goes to the conference and she hears the same thing. Polite, intelligent, cannot sit still, can't keep his mouth closed. That's me. And somehow, without apparent study, seems to be able to come up with a passing grade. I don't get it. That was I grew up, believe it or not, I grew up in the 60s. I know, I don't look it. Thank you very much for that. And so growing up in the 60s, they didn't know anything about ADD or Asperger's. And for a long time, neither did I. You see, I never read a book all the way through until I was 46 years old. I don't ever remember completing a paper in high school or in the 2 years of college I struggled through and had to drop out. I didn't know what was happening. And so as I got more information about this, what I was going through, I looked into ADD and took some online tests. And when I got to Huntsville, my doctor gave me a referral for testing. I found out that I was ADD off the chart. Didn't know. I could put a name to it now. And so I was wondering why I could not work in traditional work. Listen, I could start something, and as I started, I would start another thing. Anybody here married to an engineer? Okay, you might know what I'm talking about. I start one thing, and then I go to another thing, and I forget why I left this thing, and I should have finished that, and I'm just all over the place. And by the way, have you seen my keys? This is what I go through And if it weren't for my cell phone and I could put alarms in, I wouldn't have been here on time. I've got alarms throughout the day to remind me I need to be where I am. So if let me share with you just a couple of things. I know people want to know about, the P.I.L.L method and how I see the numbers and everything, because I see things in patterns. And I began to really look into this because I went on a girls' day out with my wife to Atlanta, but I got to stay in the hotel room while she went to the tennis matches with girlfriends. So I'm watching a movie, and this movie's about Temple Grandin. Anybody know about Temple Grandin? Okay, so when I was watching that movie about somebody with full-blown autism and received a PhD in animal husbandry because she could see things from the animal's perspective. And she saw things in pictures. And I said, as I was watching that, I said, that sounds a lot like me. And so I'm looking at this, and so as I start to replay my life, I thought I was quite social. My wife says, you like to be around social. You're not in social. You'll go to stuff, but then you'll sit on the outside looking in. I didn't realize that. I thought because I was there, I was involved. No, you're not involved. So I'm going through these things, and I'm looking at this movie, and I'm understanding more and more and more about myself. And then I got tested for Asperger's, and this was once I'm here in Huntsville. And then as I finished the battery of tests, and they came back, and then I asked the counselor. Says, well, okay, so am I a little Asperger's? It says, Asperger's, yes. Little, not so much. Just like that. And so I got some insight. And so now, I've got, this is in here. Anybody ever a product called Spark? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I've got cans of it. I realized that early on, if I got what most people would understand as a stimulant, it actually calms me down. I can drink Spark before going to bed. So she said, "No, you can't. I can't do that, Don. Can't do it. So now I'm drinking Spark, and so now in the mornings I can sit down for an hour or two and read. I can actually read books. I started out on audiobooks. I still use audiobooks today. But at least I have a library now where I didn't before. And so as I'm looking through these things, and I said, well, what kind of work can I do? The work that I do is stuff that I'm interested in. Because when I'm interested in it, I zero in on it. And when I zero in on it, I pull facts about that thing, and I just believe that everybody else wants to hear what I have to say about that one thing all night long. I don't get hits. No, listen. If I'm talking to somebody and they don't say I'm through listening, I think they want to hear more. I don't read facial expressions. I don't get body language. I don't get any of that stuff. So somebody has to literally tell me, Don, it's time to move on. See you later. I said, okay, next time. So here's where I am. I had to learn how to be social. I had to learn how to work on eye contact. When I'm in a room, I have to tell people, if it looks like I'm fiddling with my phone, I really am listening because I can take in more information if I'm doing something with my hands. So don't think that I'm being disrespectful to you. I had to learn how to advocate for myself. I had to tell people who I'm working with, this is the person you're working with. I do this. I may say things that I think is perfectly appropriate. But it could be very offensive. But if you don't tell me, I won't know. I can file it away and not do that. I may never understand why it was wrong. So don't look for that from me. But I will know that for a person who is neurotypical, I have to be able to adjust to help people help me. Does that make sense? Do you know anybody who is like me? Okay. And so this is what we're talking about. When I started out working, I would get fired from jobs if I had to sit at a desk. Because Don was constantly getting up. I remember one time I worked for True Green. At one time I was riding around in the truck. I used to do trees and shrubs. Because I knew more about trees and shrubs than a person needed to know. Okay? And so I'm driving. So that was in the days before GPS. So you get a map, you get your route, and everybody was out the door and gone. But Don would sit in the office. I would plan out my route. I was in there an hour after everybody else was gone, and the manager was noticing that. And in my evaluation, it says, Don, this is something, this is a problem. You're not getting out. You're not getting out early enough. You got to get out and get the work done. And so I got a low evaluation. And I said, well, did you compare my results with everybody else's results? Not really. So when they took that, my numbers were actually higher. Because the time I took to plan that route out, I didn't double back. I went boom, 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 boom. I got through my route faster than everybody else because I took the time to plan it out. It takes me longer to do stuff. Back to the classroom. Don's in the classroom. Everybody else is out playing. Everybody else is out playing, and I want to get out there. So the teacher and my mom thought that if I did not go out to play, that I would finish my work, and that would be the incentive. I found out that the reason why Don could finish his work when everybody was outside because all the distractions were gone. I didn't know that. I know it now. And to get some insight on it, that was very eye-opening for me. And so now when I get a chance to, the kind of work that I do, I need to work by myself. I need to work in an atmosphere that doesn't require you to meet deadlines like that. I'm tied to a desk. Some people can do that, but I can't. So I started a business in doing lawns and tree removal, and then I heard about firefighting. I was a firefighter for 17 years and an EMT because it wasn't constant doing something. I'm in the fire station 24 hours and I'm off 48 hours. So while I'm in the fire station, and trying to learn about this new job, when the alarm goes off, Don is hyper-focused, and for those 2 or 3 hours, I look just like you. I act just like you. But when the fire is done, I go back to me. I found out that because I focus, the things that I'm interested in, I can focus and get done. So, with the time I have left, let me know when I have 5 minutes left. Okay? With the time I have left, would you like to see how somebody like me, like through the eyes of a person that has Asperger's, would you like to see how I look at loans? Yeah. Okay, so pick up this piece of paper that you have here. We're going to start with this because you have to have some background. Now, interest rates, when you have an interest rate, the way that the amortization schedule works, it actually leverages what you have and it turns it into a lot more interest. So you take a little bit of something and you leverage it into a big something, okay? Now, this is a $200,000 mortgage at 6%. The payment is $1199.10. And if you look in the summary over to the left here, the interest that the bank wants for 30 years is $231,676. More interest than the amount borrowed. So how is that 6%? It's not. And that's what I used to say, it's compounded. No, it's amortized. So if I had a choice between amortized interest and compound interest, give me amortized interest all day long. Okay? And I don't have time to really get into it, but if you want to talk to me afterwards, I'll tell you how it gets there. All right? But the 6% is actually, when you look over to the left, over there, the last thing, total interest paid as a percentage of principal, 115.838%. How many would love to have a 3% mortgage? Okay, got one. Actually, that actually equates to 51% interest paid back. 3% equates to 51%. 4% equates to 71% interest paid back. 5%, 93% of what you borrowed, you pay in interest over 30 years. What happens? So here's what I'm thinking. If it is possible, as I'm looking at this thing, if it is possible to leverage it up, isn't it possible to move the fulcrum? You're sitting on the teeter-totter. Somebody keeps you up in the air all the time and then drops you. Can you move the fulcrum so that you can now control the teeter-totter, so that you can control the leverage? It is possible. So we're going to talk about how we can do that. Turn this over. And you see it on the first payment, how much money goes to principal? How much money goes to interest? All right, so that's what it costs to pay your mortgage down by $199.10. That is potential equity, but you paid $1,000 for it. If you look at cumulative, if you look at the cumulative principal and cumulative interest on line 12, you will actually pay this loan down by $2,456.01 in 12 months. How much interest will you pay? $11,000. So everybody's focused on their equity, but nobody's focused on how much it costs to get that equity. Look at that. Look at column 3 and column 4, all the way down. I got $7,000 worth of $7,800 in equity on line 36, but what did it cost me to get it? Can you imagine that? That's what it looks like. So what can we do about that? So if you take, let's say line 1 is in January, and you pay your mortgage or student loan in January, the principal payment for February is on what line? I mean, is how much? Principal payment for February is how much money? $200.10. Now, based on what you know to be true, do you have to wait till February to give the bank an extra $200.10? No. Well, if you had it, could you give it to them in January? Yes. And if you did, would you be paid down to line 2, where you would owe $199,600.80? Because all that money goes to principal, doesn't it? All right. So now, your next loan payment is not on line 2, now it's on line 3. Did you know that? So where you're paying $201.10 and $998 in interest. Follow me so far? Mm-hmm. So what happened to the $999 on line 2?
It went away.
It went away. You just saved it. So if you know how many have ever paid extra on any loan? How many have gotten a receipt back saying this is how much time and interest you saved? Listen, when I go to Publix and I get the 2 for 1, and I love getting the 2 for 1, they print it on the bottom of the receipt. Don, this is how much you saved, right? Why do they do that? So I come back. If Publix can do it, why can't Regents? Okay, so we have to understand. So once you learn how to read this thing, you can save some money. Now when you plug a computer into it, now you're moving the right amount of money on the right day, in the right month, to the right loan, so that you can kill the maximum amount of interest per dollar. Let's take a look and see how we can do some of this. All right? 90% of the people you know will never, ever pay off all of their debt. 30-year loans should pay off in an average of 7 to 9 years. That's all your stuff. That's everything. Everything you have. Because you can actually cut your interest cost by 75% when you know how to read this thing and move the right amount of money on the right day. The only way this can happen is through optimization. You can do it without refinancing. Change to your budget, monthly payments, budget stays the same, all of that. P.I.L.L stands for prepayment of principal. We just went over that a little bit. Isolating the principal amount, how much to move and when to move it. Leverage, how small amounts of money can get rid of huge amounts of front-loaded interest, okay? And liquidity. What do I do with the cash that I have available? Am I using it correctly? This is the formula that amortizes your loan. So compound interest, according to Einstein, is the 8th wonder of the world. Amortized interest has to be the 9th. Love it. Okay, here's $500,000, okay? Regular payment is here. This is 3%. Here is the interest that needs to be paid, and so now we're going to pay this for the loan. It actually comes to 51.77%. So if you borrow $100 from me, and I say pay me $150 back, do you want to borrow money from me? What interest rate am I asking for? Does it matter if I call it 3%? If I can't get $50, how come the bank can get this? You know, because with Asperger's, I have to start asking different questions. Like, the first time I saw an expensive car was when I'm in Miami, and it was a Bentley. And I'm thinking to myself, why does it take 30 years to pay off a $150,000 house, but only 6 years to pay off a $150,000 Bentley? Gotta have an answer to that. Got 5 minutes left, gotta get going. Here's your borrower's right to prepay, okay? This is your right to do. After I get done, people ask you, can you really do that? Will the banks let you? No, it's your right to do it. All right, read your paperwork. It's in there. So what we just learned was if on that particular loan, if I give the bank $200 extra at that point, I can save about $1,000 in interest. Good to know? Okay. Because the more interest you save, the faster you get out of debt. The more interest you pay, the longer you stay in debt. So if I can save $1,000 with $200, I may not have $200. What if I give the bank half that money? $100. How much interest would I save? Would it still be worth it? Because see, here's the thing. I'm focused on the principal as I give the bank my $100 and the principal barely moves. So I get discouraged and I give up. Because see, I can get a big screen TV today. All right? So $50 saves me $250. $25 saves me $125. Look at this. If you gave me $3.13 and I gave you back $18.75, how many times would you do that? All day. The bank is required to do the same thing. You just have to know what your benefits are when you give them the money. If you know what they are, then you can now put a plan together that's going to help you. All the way down to here. 1 penny saves you 7 cents on that loan. What? So that means $5. A $5 cup of coffee can save you, that $5 could have saved you $35 in interest on this loan. So that $5 cup of coffee plus the $35 in interest, it could have canceled. That cup of coffee now costs $40. There you go. Even I can do that, man. All right, so we want to focus on interest, not interest rate. Because when you focus on interest rate, we really don't know what it means. All I know is if I got a good interest rate, it's lower than yours. That's it. But I know nothing about the interest cost. So I got a friend of mine, well, actually he's a friend now. Okay, local business guy, right here, engineer, building a $400,000 house. He asked if he should put $100,000 down so he could finance $300,000 instead of $400,000 at 3%. I mean, listen, he's an engineer. He's got his spreadsheets, and they got it all worked out. Every engineer I meet and every mathematician I meet ends up going home with my program. Every single one, 100%. Why is that? After they come with their spreadsheets and said, I know I can beat your program. Nah, can't do it. Okay? I told him that the $400,000 at 3% is the way to go. He started, listen, pull this all out. At $400,000, look what you got to pay. At $300,000, look what you got to pay. But look at the ROI for the bank. It's the same. Isn't that crazy? So here's what we found out. Applying $100,000 prepayment instead of the down payment, you could save $110,000. See, if you have your $400,000 loan, right? His $100,000 is still in the bank. If he applies it to the loan after it's established, he knocks off 10 years, 3 months worth of payments right now. Still has $300,000 to pay, right? But now he's 19 years, 9 months left with the same $100,000. Same money, vastly different result when you know how to read an amortization schedule. So now, puts his house into my program. He's now going to be out of debt in just 7 years. His total interest cost on everything, $30,000.
Awesome.
So, God bless me with this information. And because there's no actual reason for me to know it, because understanding how, are there any bankers in the room? Loan officers? Okay, good. Because see, I can say stuff that's offensive and I really don't mean to. Because see, listen, I got 4 mortgages because I love the bank. I just don't want to borrow money at retail prices. I want to borrow it at wholesale because interest is just rent on your money. You go from renting an apartment to renting money your entire life. Isn't that true? Okay, so this was happening. So which loan do you think the bank loves most, the $400,000 or the $300,000? Yeah, they love the $300,000 more because I get your $100,000 right now, and you're going to give me that $300,000 over 30 years. They love this one. Okay, that's why they ask you to do it. So here's the thing. Anytime we're saving money, you go in and you get all your advice from the bankers, right? You're saving money. If I'm saving money, who's losing it?
The bank.
Oh, so it was even hard for you to say that, right? So if the more you seem to save, the more you need to ask questions. Okay? So there's a lot of things we need to understand about this because of this. 13 different loans. And we're going to find out what that means, and I'm going to bypass this to here. 13 different loans. There are more than 3 or 4 things you can do with your money. The things that we've been taught to do with loans are called heuristics, or a rule of thumb. When you have a rule of thumb, then what you miss out on are the thousands of different other calculations you could do to save you money. If you have 13 different loans, there are many ways to arrange those 13 loans to pay them off. There are things within each loan that you need to consider. So, if we just take 13 and want to arrange them in every possible configuration, we just have to, because I rely on Siri so much. I really do. Siri, what's 13 factorial? Hey Siri, what's 13 factorial? Oh, now.
The answer is 6,227,020,800.
One of those is optimum. The rest you lose money on. My program does all of that and then says, pick this one, do this with your money, you're going to save the maximum amount of money. If you want some of my information, you can text TPM to the number 36260. I'll be glad to talk to you after this is all over. Vicki, I really don't want to go over my time, but I needed to tell folks about who I am and where this actually comes from. Thank you so very much.
Well, I am certainly enlightened by Don's presentation. I felt that his story was important to be told. Not only the financial information that he shed light on for us, but how he got to that and how he turned his gift into a superpower that can help everyone else. So for me personally, his story was important, and I'm glad that you got to hear it today. So with that, I am excited for y'all to be here today, and we will have information on the website, a downloadable PDF that we can give you that gives Don's information and more information about the P.I.L.L method and how you can connect with him, and maybe he can help you get some savings on your mortgages. So with that, these are the ways that we can connect with Rise. We got Facebook, we got LinkedIn, we got YouTube, we got Instagram, we got a website, we got newsletters, and lots of different ways to connect with us. I hope you will take a minute to look at our website, all of which has also been recreated by the great There's a Puma back here who is doing our video feed and has designed our new sign-in process. So we've got lots of new things coming. So check out our website, follow the QR codes, and it'll get you more information about what we're doing. So with that, thank you all for coming